Welcome to today's episode of UndocuStartup Weekly, where I share the biggest lessons that I've been learning building the #1 entrepreneurship program for undocumented students. If you're an Undocu student ally wanting to bring UndocuStartup to your campus, please visit www.undocustartup.com. Again, that is www.undocustartup.com. Also, by the way, check out my fit. Like, I have my PJs, but we're going to film this because we didn't film one last week, okay?
Welcome to UndocuStartup by Juan Maya Hernandez.
The past 2 weeks, I ended up doing 100 cold sales calls. And by cold, I mean some of these people I had never connected with. So I put down a total of 9 lessons on these sales calls that I ended up learning. So maybe you guys find this valuable. So let's get right into it. Lesson number 1, focus on what you can control when doing the sales calls, okay? I had a few people actually mention a competitor, and I didn't really understand how to respond. Never been there, never done that. Then I went online and I started looking at how can I actually respond. And also if they already work with somebody else and also like when I did these sales calls, I don't know when they plan out their budget, right? Given that I work with institutions. So I did receive some feedback that they plan it X amount of months in advance. And those are just things that I cannot control, but me being able to cold call is going to give me information on what I can improve next time. So that was lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is to have a script for introducing myself. All right. When I first called, I honestly did not know what I was going to say, right? I always, when I'm going to do something new, I never, ever go on YouTube and learn what to say, whatever. I just jump in cold. I jump in cold turkey. And I ended up saying like my name. I said UndocuStartup, and then I started switching it. I had a different credibility. But what I realized is that after listening to all of my sales calls, all my cold sales calls, there was a few things in common. So there was a few words that I was already saying. There was a few words where people actually wanted to talk to me. Some things were not clear. So that is going to help me in the future. Like just having a script on how to introduce myself, what to say. I think that would be great. Also including a connection to the community that I'm trying to serve, like saying that I'm a DACA recipient, saying that I'm undocumented is also something that I can include in that script. So that is lesson number 2. Lesson number 3 is to call earlier in the day to avoid any delays or if they go to lunch, right? So when I would call around 9 a.m., 10 a.m., people would answer. When I started calling a little later, like around 12 p.m., people were on their lunch break or people were away from their desk. And that's something that I learned. I mean, the earlier you call, some people enter at 8:30, some people enter at 9 a.m. So the earlier I call, the higher response rate I will receive, the higher likelihood of somebody actually answering my call, talking to me, and moving forward. So that's a big lesson right there. Lesson number 4 is if they do not answer the first time, just leave a voicemail. So then eventually they can call you back. I made the mistake that with the same person, I kept calling, even if I continue to go to voicemail. And again, that's a mistake because I'm losing time that I could potentially, I think it's a mistake because I'm essentially losing time that I could focus on somebody else and then just call them another day. Right. So I called somebody 3 times, I called somebody 2 times, and I just kept going back to voicemail. And on the voicemail, I had to end up, and on the voicemail, it was also a learning curve, right? Like, what do I say on the voicemail? Do I tell them to call me back? Do I tell them more information? And I just did everything. But essentially, if they're not answering, to save yourself some time, just leave a voicemail as another lesson. Lesson number 5 is to have a goal for the meeting or have a goal for the call, right? Is the goal to send a proposal? Is the goal to set up a next meeting? Is the goal to get it on the calendar? What was the goal? I didn't have a goal when I started cold calling. And then I have a goal. Eventually, when I was doing like the 20th, the 30th cold call, I was like, the goal should be let's send them more information. Let's set up a follow-up meeting. Maybe let's send a proposal. And when I started shifting that little mindset or that little the goal, it ended up allowing me to understand, okay, this is when I can set up the next meeting. This is when I can send proposals, etc. So I led with, can I just send a proposal if they're interested? And then let's set up a meeting within 2 weeks so that we are able to talk a little bit more about their questions and whatnot. And yeah, so that was lesson number 5. Lesson number 6 is to be optimistic. Okay, it is to be optimistic. The very first cold call that I did, I was nervous. I had never done it before. I mean, in my previous job when I was working in marketing, I did have to cold call customers to ask them about the feedback, ask them about how we can improve the app. But I had never really applied it outside of doing it for somebody else. But I just told myself, let's just do the first one. You're gonna get anxiety, but let's just do the first one, then do the second one, then do the third one, then do the fourth one, then do the fifth one. And I also understood that it takes time. It takes time. But once I did the first one, then I said, you know what, they're gonna answer, and eventually people ended up answering. Eventually I called the right person, and eventually it led to a contract way faster than it took to send cold emails. So that was another thing that optimism helped me with, where like you don't know who's gonna answer, you don't know if they're gonna answer, you don't know if they already planned out their budget for the year, but let me just call anyways and see if we can land something this week. Lesson number seven. Lesson number seven is to listen to the successful ones to improve. I didn't do that in the first week. I didn't do that in the second week. Even though I ended up doing 100 sales calls, I have not listened to the successful ones. What was different? How was my tone? All these other things. These are little things that I can pick up on so I can continue to improve the ones that succeeded, right? And to me, a success story would be, did I send a proposal? Did I set up another time to meet with them 2 weeks from now, right? So we got to continue doing that if I'm going to continue these cold calls. But this is pretty good. Lesson number 8 is to add credibility. When I introduce myself, I used to just say, hey, my name is Juan. I'm the founder of UndocuStartup. And I didn't know what to say after that, right? Do I mention UCLA? Because a lot more people know UCLA than UndocuStartup, right? Some people don't know who UndocuStartup is. They're like, oh, who's this guy calling me? Or some people even thought that I was a student, right? We don't want that. We don't want that. So at the end of the day, what I ended up doing, or shifting at least, was just to add credibility. I said, hi, my name is Juan. I'm the founder of UndocuStartup. We're the leading entrepreneurship program for undocumented students. And then I talk a little bit about that. And then I go straight to, would you be interested in partnering with us? And that's kind of like how I ended up navigating this cold calls moving forward. And now the last lesson is to call earlier because it takes time. All right. Call earlier because it takes time. I mentioned this when I received more responses, more pickups when I called around 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. rather than calling after 1 p.m. Now, in order for me to call 20 people, it would take around 3 hours. In order for me to call in order for me to call 33 people, it would take me around 4 hours. So I would start at 10 a.m., 10, 11, 12, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, around 3 p.m. I would be done. And that's when I understood, like, this is why salespeople get paid a lot, to just sit behind the screen looking at leads and then just calling every single one of them individually to get the sale. And sometimes they call twice, sometimes they call later, sometimes they call the same person 2, 3 times, right? But I understood that it takes me around 4 hours to get through 33 calls, leave voicemails, and then some people are gonna answer, and then some people are gonna ask for more information, some people are gonna ask more questions, but then there's gonna be a select few that are gonna be like, you know what, we're really interested in this, and that's really another lesson. The last one I'll mention, and I didn't include it right here because I have my iPad in front of me where I write down my notes, but the last one that I'll mention is I landed a contract. I landed a contract much faster than sending cold emails. Whereas cold emails might take 2 months for somebody to respond, somebody to get to my Zoom link, somebody to book an appointment with me. This one was much easier, and I did it through the phone. So it also taught me that if I reduce the friction from somebody connecting with me and learning about the program, we can get contracts much faster. And that was the biggest lesson that I learned through this little 100 cold calls within the past 2 weeks. That's the biggest thing that it taught me. Like, if I just reduce the friction, we're gonna be in a better position for landing contracts, and we're gonna be doing it faster. So if I had to choose between sending cold email and waiting 2 months versus just cold calling somebody and waiting 2 weeks, we're gonna continue doing the cold calls. So that is one thing that I had never tried before, right? Like, before this, most of my clients, most of my partnerships were coming from cold email, and I was like, this is gonna be the best way. I've invested money on it. I've invested for somebody to help me find 4,000 emails, and it was when I started running into roadblocks with that when I started thinking about, okay, let's not put any more money into finding these things. Let's put more money into let's put more time instead into just calling the people that are the most like our ideal customer, our ideal partner. And that's the biggest thing that I learned. So with that, let's just do a quick recap so like that y'all can have the lessons in front of you. So lesson number one, focus on what you can control. Some people are not going to answer. Some people are going to mention a competitor. Just take notes so like that in the next one, you're able to counter that, or you're able to know how to respond. Lesson number two, have a script for introducing yourself. Talk about your credibility. Say your name. Maybe say what institution you come from, etc. But talk about credibility. And also have a script. Lesson number three is call earlier in the day to avoid any delays or them going to lunch. This is just so people can answer the phone. Lesson number four is to, if they don't answer, just leave a voicemail. Don't continue calling that same day. Maybe call them another day. So hopefully they answer. And by leaving a voicemail, some of them might call you back, some of them might not. Lesson number five, have a goal for the next meeting. If the goal is to send a proposal and set up a follow-up meeting, do that. That's what ended up working with me. Lesson number six is to be optimistic that somebody's going to pick up. Even though some people may not pick up, there's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 people that are going to pick up. And out of those 4 or 5 people, one of them might really be interested in the program. So just be optimistic that something like that is going to land. Lesson number seven is to listen to the successful ones to improve on what to do better, etc. Lesson number eight is to add credibility. We talked about this in the script. If I mention UCLA, if I mention I'm a DACA recipient, if I mention my connection to the undocumented community, that's going to give me a little bit more credibility. Lesson number nine is to call earlier because it takes time. It takes around 4 hours to call 33 people, right, in the same day. So I can literally start from 10. I'll go all the way until 2, 2, 3. And then that's why I understand like salespeople, they get paid a lot because if they land one commission, etc. Yeah, anyways. And then the last lesson, like I mentioned, is cold calling reduces friction to land a proposal to send a contract much faster. So within the past 2 weeks or so, I've sent over 10 plus proposals. And when I was just cold calling, I was sending them at a less faster rate. So that's something that I have been learning as I'm going into February, as I'm going into this next year, because I am starting to plan the next 12 weeks for my business. So with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope you find this valuable. And remember that if you want us to continue to support this podcast, continue supporting the mission that we're building here, give this video a thumbs up. If you're watching it on YouTube, subscribe. And if you're watching it on Spotify, you're listening to your favorite podcast, please share it with somebody that needs to hear this. And remember, be motivated and stay motivated, baby. I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Bye. Bye.